"Hey, Tom, come look at this," Mary called out as she picked up a shiny object from the shelf of the little antique shop. Tom walked over, leaning on his walking stick. "What is it, Mary?" he asked, adjusting his glasses. "It's a paperweight," Mary replied, placing the heavy glass piece into Tom's hand. "See the blue and red swirls? It's so pretty." Tom smiled. Reminds me of the marbles I played with as a boy. Simple times." Mary nodded. "Yes, but this paperweight reminds me of something else too. Do you remember?" Her eyes twinkled as she looked at him. Tom's face lit up. "Oh, yes, I do." He chuckled, but then started coughing. He leaned on his stick, struggling to breathe. "Are you okay, Tom?" Mary asked, patting his back gently. "Let me get some water for you." She slowly made her way to the counter. "Excuse me, young man," she called to the shop assistant. "Can I get a glass of water for my husband?" The assistant, busy on his phone, glanced up briefly. "We don't have water here. There's a store across the street." He went back to scrolling, laughing at something on the screen. Mary frowned but didn't say anything. Tom joined her, still catching his breath. "What's so funny?" he asked the assistant. The young man sighed. "Just a meme on my phone," he said. Tom shook his head. "Young people today, always on their phones. Back in our day, people noticed the world around them." Mary smiled. "And they had manners too. This shop used to be a general store, didn't it?" "Yes," Tom said. "We stopped here during our first trip together. Remember?" "Of course. That was our 5th stop on the road." "6, Mary. You always forget the diner where we had breakfast that morning." Mary laughed. "All right, 6th stop. Those were the good old days." She turned to the assistant. "Do you know what a general store is, young man? Everything cost only a few cents back then." The assistant rolled his eyes. "Look, folks, we're closing soon. If you're not buying anything, I need to lock up." Tom frowned. "No respect these days," he muttered. Mary picked up the paperweight again. "Tom, this feels like the one I used back then. Remember?" Tom's eyes sparkled. "I do. Let's make this visit special too." Mary smiled knowingly. Special indeed. She locked the shop door and pulled down the shade. The assistant stood up. "Hey, what are you doing?" Tom moved quickly, surprising the young man. He grabbed the assistant's arm and snapped a pair of handcuffs onto his wrists. "Hey, let me go!" the assistant shouted. Mary stuffed a scarf into his mouth to silence him. "Shh, now. No need to make a fuss." The assistant struggled, but Tom tied him to a chair with zip ties. "Not so strong, are you?" Tom said, chuckling. "Kids these days need to toughen up." Mary picked up the paperweight running her fingers over its smooth surface. "Ready, Tom?" she asked. Tom nodded, holding a small hammer he had taken from Mary's bag. "Happy anniversary, my dear." "Happy anniversary, Tom," Mary replied. They shared a smile before turning to the terrified assistant. "Let's make this a trip to remember," Tom said. And with that, they began their work.